Hello and welcome to the news at 7 on the programme tonight. Anas Sarwar insists he can still be First Minister as he addresses the Scottish Labour Spring Conference in Paisley. We'll hear from one of Scotland's top pollsters about where the party stands with just 10 weeks to go now until the Holyrood election. Also tonight, keeping Glasgow's streets safe. A dispersal zone set to be introduced in the city centre to tackle antisocial behaviour. We'll find out what locals think.
I would say, as a general note, there's always people about that you'd feel safe enough.
Sometimes in the winter time when I was leaving at night time, you could feel a bit kind of apprehensive.
Later in the programme,
you really can do these things anywhere, which was really great and quite inspiring from all these young people.
she's amassed almost 1 million followers across her online platforms. We'll meet the Skye-based influencer who's sharing life's little joys in her first TV show. We'll get all the sport with Jane. What's coming up tonight, Jane?
Well, we'll look ahead to a significant weekend in the Scottish Premiership. Can Hearts extend their lead at the top before the Old Firm meets at Ibrox?
And we'll see the unveiling of Scottish artist Jack Vetriano's self-portraits on the first anniversary of his death. Hello, I'm Amy Irons and welcome to the news at 7. Now, the Scottish Labour leader insists he can still be First Minister in May, despite recent polling showing the party trailing the SNP and Reform UK in voting intentions for Holyrood. And the hammer blow of a third-place finish at yesterday's Gorton and Denton by-election in Greater Manchester. Taking to the stage at the Scottish Labour Spring Conference in Paisley, Anas Sarwar said the country deserves better than a third decade of SNP government. But as our political editor Glenn Campbell reports, he faces an uphill battle with 10 weeks to go until Scotland goes to the polls. Just a warning for you, there are flashing images ahead.
What a way to start the day of Scottish Labour conference, with a by-election disaster for Labour in Greater Manchester.
So I hereby declare that Hannah Catherine Spencer is duly elected Member of Parliament for the Gorton and Denton constituency.
A new Green MP, and Labour pushed into third place by Reform UK. So does this give the Scottish Labour leader the jitters?
A disappointing result, and I think it demonstrates that people everywhere feel angry, feel frustrated, and that the electorate is volatile. But I think we do need to be careful not to have an automatic read across to what's happening in Scotland, because of course in Scotland the establishment for the last 20 years has been the SNP, and I think that would be a very different framing for an election in 10 weeks' time here in Scotland.
It's fair to say that, people want to talk about the UK context, of course they do. But look, I think Anas was very clear in what he said about standing up for Scotland. Scotland will be the priority for the Scottish Labour Party.
We think that Keir Starmer's made too many misjudgments, too many mistakes, and he needs to reflect and in fact resign. That would be for the best.
Clearly, Anas Sarwar wants to distance himself from the by-election, just as he has already tried to distance himself from the UK Labour leader, Keir Starmer.
Right, Michelle, let's have a look.
If Sarwar could surgically remove the Prime Minister from his election campaign, he probably would. But this visit to the Paisley practice, where his own dental career began, was just a way to show his personal connection to the NHS. In his conference address, that translated into new policy.
Any Scottish medical, dental or nursing student on a publicly funded place will, after graduating, be expected to work in Scotland's NHS and social care system for at least 5 years, or they will have to repay their tuition and bursaries.
Golden handcuffs for health professionals and a new commitment on house building. Above all, this speech was about framing the Holyrood election as a Scottish choice between Labour and the SNP.
Those who claim to stand up for Scotland but also say this election is about somewhere else or someone else, I say shame on you. This election is about Scotland.
An election to be decided in just 10 weeks, which is not a long time for Labour to gain enough momentum to finish in first place. Glenn Campbell reporting Scotland, Paisley.
Well, earlier I asked polling expert Mark Diffley whether Anna Sarwar's emphasis on improving the NHS gives him his best chance of success at May's Holyrood election.
Yes, I mean, certainly by speaking about the NHS for such a significant part of his speech today, Anna Sarwar shows that he is looking at the opinion polls, which show that reform of the NHS is something that is a high priority for voters. What voters tell people like me is that they've got two major priorities. One is to improve public services, and in particular the NHS. And the other one is to feel better off, or to feel slightly better off, because the cost of living crisis is still a reality for many voters. So tackling and thinking about the NHS and speaking about the NHS today is a clear priority for voters, and it's one of the two main issues upon, I think, which the election will be decided.
There was a bit of an elephant in the room at the conference, Mark, namely who wasn't actually in the room. Is distancing himself from Keir Starmer a vote winner for Anna Sarwar, do you think? Or does the fact that we're seeing a bit of a divide in Labour actually cause voters greater concern?
I think the reality is that polling, both before that decision was taken to call for the Prime Minister to resign, and since, has shown very little movement. There have been several polls done since Anna Sarwar made that announcement 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there hasn't been any movement in those polls towards Labour. In a sense, I think maybe we shouldn't have expected there to be any movement in the immediate term, in the short term. You know, there is always a lag between big announcements and voters picking up on those messages, reading about them, thinking about them, and making any different decisions in terms of how they vote. So it's perhaps not too surprising at this point that there hasn't been any change in the polling from that point of view. But, you know, we do now only have 10 weeks to go until the election, which again is something that Anna Sarwar spoke about many times. He referenced that 10 weeks ago. So there is, I think, a sense of desperation now that, you know, the polls aren't changing at this point, and there needs to be a really significant change in the next 10 weeks if there's going to be any movement in the polls, and to give Labour any chance of overhauling the SNP, who are still significantly ahead.
Yeah, those 10 weeks will no doubt absolutely fly, won't they, Mark? You mentioned the bad news for Labour overnight, coming third in that Gorton and Denton by-election behind the Greens and Reform. Do you see this as a big moment for UK politics, just in terms of those traditional voting allegiances?
It absolutely is. I mean, it's something that here in Scotland we've been quite used to, multi-party politics, for, you know, throughout really the entire devolution period of the last 25, 26 years. But of course, across the UK, particularly in England, it has traditionally been, you know, Tory and Labour, sort of two-way fights. One's up, one's down. At the moment, however, they are experiencing something. We're all experiencing something kind of quite different, really. We're in an era of multi-party politics. We're in an era where many voters look at voting in much more of a marketplace. People move their votes between different types of elections. They move their votes between general elections and by-elections. They're generally distrusting of many politicians. Voters want to see change. They want to see things differently, but they're not sure what sort of change that they actually want. And so, you know, we're much more in flux than we used to be. This is not just a phenomenon in the UK. We're seeing it throughout Europe and beyond, and it's, you know, we live in much less certain times, and for good or bad, that's just something we're going to have to really get used to.
Mark Diffley there. Now, a dispersal zone is set to be temporarily introduced by police in the city centre of Glasgow as part of a crackdown on crime and antisocial behaviour. Starting in 3 weeks' time, officers will be able to ask groups of 2 or more to leave the designated area if their behaviour is impacting on the safety and well-being of others. Well, Hazel Martin went into the city to find out more.
Dispersal zone powers are not new. They've been used across cities like Glasgow, Edinburgh and Aberdeen in an effort to curb antisocial behaviour, including being imposed specifically on bonfire night here and in the capital. The latest instalment will give police the power to ask groups of 2 or more to leave the designated area, banning them from returning for 24 hours.
It's about public reassurance, it's about fear of crime, It's about trying to make the city feel like the welcoming place that the city should feel, so that people can come in and go about their business, come to work, go shopping, etc. We took a lot of drugs off the street. We dealt with the overt criminality, but what we saw was residual groups of people being left behind, who invariably ended up engaging in antisocial behaviour. So it just gives the cops, the officers, an additional tool to move these people on.
This temporary measure will come into force next month, covering St Enoch Square, Union Street and at Glasgow Central Station. It follows concerns from members of the public and businesses. So how safe do people feel in the city centre?
Maybe like at night there's sometimes like certain like rowdy behaviours, but I would say as a general note, like there's always like people about that like you'd feel safe enough.
I think this could be really beneficial for Glasgow. I think that during the night, especially in the weekends as well, there can be quite a lot of antisocial behaviour. So yeah, I think that'll be a good thing to be able to like get people moving and kind of make it feel a wee bit more safe maybe.
Well, at nights, just like the weekends, quite busy with lots of drunks and things like that. But I do still feel safe in the city centre.
I've seen some instances in Union Street and things like that. Sometimes in the winter time when I was leaving at night time, you could feel a bit kind of apprehensive. But overall I feel safe, but I don't generally come in the town much at night time, and sometimes there is like crowds of people and I've seen kind of fighting and things like that, especially round about this sort of area.
There's pushback from some young people's charities who fear this may make vulnerable youths harder to monitor. Police Scotland say the measures would be used appropriately and only when necessary. Hazel Martin, Reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
Let's get a roundup of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland today. Firearms officers have been called to reports of a group of men brandishing knives at each other in a supermarket car park. It happened at the Asda store in Edinburgh's Jewel area on Wednesday. A plaque dedicated to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been removed from Inverness Town House. It marked the former Prince's visit to the city in 2018 to unveil renovations to the building. And BBC Radio 2 has named Stirling as this year's location for its flagship live music festival. Radio 2 in the Park will take place at the City Park between the 7th and 9th of August. Well, for more information on all of these stories and many more, you can scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you straight to the app. Next tonight, it's recently been voted the best place to live in the whole of Britain. An oasis of seaside calm for Edinburgh commuters and a mecca for visitors drawn to its beaches, cafes and wildlife. But an unusual form of criminality has reared its head in the otherwise genteel town of North Berwick. New parking meters have been vandalised at a cost of almost £40,000 before a single penny has actually been collected in them in charges. Stephen Godden went to investigate.
An affluent, picturesque town on the East Lothian coast, North Berwick might seem an unlikely hotbed of resistance. But look closely and the signs are there. Plans to introduce parking charges aren't popular with many, and the glue used to clog up the majority of newly installed meters, the most extreme expression of that discontent.
Before collecting a single penny in revenue, East Lothian Council has a bill of almost £40,000 to repair the damage. The company that installed the parking meters described the extent of the vandalism as unprecedented and totally extraordinary. You'll forgive me, it doesn't seem very North Berwick kind of behaviour.
No, it doesn't at all. It doesn't. I mean, it's senseless really, isn't it? But I think it's born out of frustration and somebody at some point has just felt it's the only way to get their point across.
On the one hand, resistance is not futile, I hope. On the other hand, it's vandalism, and it costs the council more money to fix this.
People went around and glued all the parking meter slots with super glue, and anybody who does it here, I give them a medal.
The Community Council argue that local opinion has been ignored. They say the consensus is that parking restrictions will damage high street businesses and tourism. But what about those who've taken matters into their own hands?
We can't condone, in fact we condemn that happening, right? But due to the anti-democratic stuff that's going on here, we can kind of understand it, right? It doesn't make it right, but we can understand why people are getting frustrated, because everything we've tried has been blocked by East Lothian Council.
Similar charges are planned for other East Lothian towns, and while the start date for North Berwick has been delayed, The council insists it won't back down.
I'm really disappointed that this has happened in North Berwick, because if people think by vandalising these machines it will stop the parking charges coming in, we will bring these parking charges in. We need to do this.
Police Scotland say vandalism won't be tolerated and those responsible will be held accountable. Officers have asked anyone with information to contact them. Stephen Godden reporting Scotland, North Berwick.
Still to come, we will see how the weather is looking this weekend with Gillian, and we will hear from Niamh McKinnon, the girl from Skye, whose online fame has gone global. But first, sporting with Jane. And Jane, this Premiership race just continues to heat up week by week.
Yeah, it's brilliant stuff, isn't it? We start with another massive weekend in the title race and a potentially pivotal Old Firm fixture at Ibrox on Sunday. Celtic travel across the city on the back of an impressive second leg win over Stuttgart in the Europa League last night, but sit third in the Premiership behind Rangers and leaders Hearts. Well, midfielder Luke McCowan insists champion Celtic still have the belief that they are the team to beat in the league, while Rangers boss Danny Rule is fully confident his side can take maximum points this weekend.
I think it's just putting on a good performance that can, as I said, lead to a good result. We know if we're at it, no team in that league touches us, and we need to have that mentality going in. And as Celtic players, we need to know we're champions still until we lose it, and right now we've not lost it, so we need to have that mentality.
At the moment we're in the second position. They are behind us. I think they have at the moment 7 or 8 defeats. Yeah, I think general it makes no sense to speak too much about the other side. We have to focus on ourselves. We want to win this game. I see my team is ready to take points, and then we will see on Sunday. Hopefully both teams try everything, and I'm confident that we have a big chance to win this game.
Well, to leaders Hearts now, and Derek McInnes has downplayed the importance of his side emerging as the favourites for the title as they prepare to host Aberdeen tomorrow. The Gorgie side could extend their lead at the top to 7 points with a win at Tynecastle ahead of that Old Firm game on Sunday. But McInnes is urging his players to block out the noise and concentrate on themselves.
I've never ever felt we were favourites at any point, but I know that we're capable of winning games, and I know that with 10 games to go, there's still a lot that can happen, and we've just really got to just concentrate on ourselves. Whether people think we're favourites or not, or the bookies do, every day can be wrong. Pundits are wrong, bookies can be wrong. We just need to try and be as right as we can, and that's the intention Saturday.
Well, earlier I spoke to the football writer John McGarry, fresh out of Martin O'Neill's press conference at Celtic Park, to get his thoughts on that game at Ibrox, but started by asking him about league leaders Hearts playing the day before their nearest challengers.
It's a huge benefit. They had a bit of an upset a couple of weeks ago when they lost to Rangers at Ibrox, but they bounced back straight away last week with a kind of prosaic win against Falkirk. But at this time of the season, it's just all about winning. The performance doesn't really matter. So they'll know if they can win that game against an Aberdeen team which is really struggling for form at the moment. They can then just sit back and watch the game at Ibrox unfold on Sunday, knowing that something's got to give there.
And we've seen some tit-for-tat comments between Luke McCowan and Danny Rowe. We've heard of them as well. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, well, this is just the kind of the froth that comes before these games, isn't it? I mean, I love it. It's all part of the build-up to these games. Luke McCowan's obviously come out and stated that on their day, Celtic are the best team in the country. Danny Rowe is naturally going to dispute that.
Old Firm derbies always almost impossible to predict, so I'm going to ask you to try and do just that, John. How do you see it going?
Well, Rangers haven't been so great on the road recently. They've drawn their past 3 matches, but they were good value against Hearts a couple of weeks ago. And I think the atmosphere within Ibrox had a lot to do with that. It was probably the loudest it's been in a long time. I just think that home advantage, the noise that the home fans will make, might just make a difference. I think Rangers might just sneak this by the odd goal in 3. I think it would be a huge psychological blow for whoever loses. But there are still enough games remaining. Nothing will be decided, but certainly the result is going to have quite a significant bearing on the outcome of this title race.
Let's look at the other end of the table, John, because it's fairly significant down there as well in terms of this weekend's fixtures. We've got Livingston, who are 8 points adrift of Kilmarnock, 10 points adrift of St Mirren, who they play this weekend. And St Mirren haven't been in great form.
Yeah, you feel that Livingston have really got to win this game to stand any chance of survival. But against Rangers last week, they were dogged. They fought for absolutely everything, and they'll fancy their chances here. And we are playing against a team like St Mirren, who have gone completely off the boil since they won the League Cup. They'll feel that they're vulnerable, and Livingston will go for it. And if they can get a win, it just gives them that little bit of hope.
Well, let's get more on that crucial match at the bottom of the table that John was talking about there. And St Mirren boss Stephen Robinson says his side have to start dragging the teams above them into a relegation fight. Well, the Buddies sit just 2 points above Kilmarnock in the playoff spot, and tomorrow they travel to a Livingston side who've seen an improvement in performances under new boss Marvin Bartley. Well, the St Mirren have struggled in the league this season, but Robinson wants to see his side put points on the board.
There's a lot of games, everybody plays each other, so you can drag people back into it again. I don't think anybody in the bottom half is out of a relegation scrap. We have been in and around there most of the season, so we've been used to playing under that negativity and pressure. You always get one team that drops back into it that didn't think they had anything to do with it, so our job is to get points on the board, to keep the teams below us away, but also to drag other people into this battle.
Yeah, big games either end of the table. Of course, the BBC Sports Scotland website will keep you fully across it all over the weekends.
Who knows what situation we'll be in by Monday, Jane?
Well, we'll be here to tell you. That's all we know.
That we know. We can tell you that for sure. You'll be here. Jane, thanks very much as ever. Now, something I know you're a fan of as well, fresh air, nature, enjoying the little things in life, don't we all? Well, it's the subject of a new series of BBC Alba called Rudenbeck of Boyack. Presenting the new show is Niamh McKinnon, a social media influencer who was born and raised on Skye. She embraces slow living and improving mindfulness by connecting with nature. In the show, she tries out different outdoor activities with friends, from wild swimming to hilltop yoga. Well, earlier, our reporter Caitlin Hutchinson sat down with Niamh to learn more about her adventures.
Is mission Niamh is after gyfeile cortagram a bhí fudach an Eilean marach and chilling Skye nach Aling.
Hi, ja, un, toshi.
Hai cutramacha a bhí fain plachs na rutin shimplein seo. Stácha gyfeile bethe Karen Sochger.
Traffic ir an Ion Skye nach an dé, tarpúri Kiranach.
Ach an yele eacher daring.
I make content about living on the Isle of Skye, kind of showing a different perspective for young people living in their 20s. It's not, you know, city life, hustle culture. It's a more slow-paced lifestyle, and yeah, I share that as well as things about like the Gaelic culture up there and just what it's like to live on the island.
So tell me about this new series then, because I know it's all about enjoying the little things on the island and island life.
Yeah.
Is it been quite different from the content that you normally make?
Yeah, it's been really nice because when I do my own thing, it's always me sharing what I'm getting up to. But in this series, I'm finding out what other young girls are doing, and I feel like I learned a lot from them and like different ways to slow down and disconnect from the modern world and everything. What I thought was really great about it is that every activity we did was free. It was, you know, anyone can do it. Obviously, we were doing it up in the Isle of Skye and it did have picturesque, lovely surroundings, but you really can do these things anywhere.
You talk, as you say, a lot about mindfulness and getting connected to nature. What is the one thing you'd want people to take away from watching this series?
Just being able to disconnect and slow down and find little moments in every day that, you know, bring you peace amongst the chaos of modern day life. That's really what it's all about.
What does that look like then, would you say, for someone that might want to seek out those moments to connect with nature but perhaps live in the city, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point on the series is that it's the little things. You know, it doesn't need to be like a big adventure up a hill or anything. Of course, we do things like yoga up the hill and stuff, but some of the activities are just as little as like writing a haiku outside, and it's just about taking in your surroundings. So you can really do that anywhere. It doesn't need to be like up in the Highlands. It can be in a park in the city. It can be anywhere. So yeah.
you're a born and bred Skye inhabitant. Have you seen the Isle change a lot over the years?
Yeah, I think I have, especially with obviously tourism and social media. It's had such an influence on the island, positive and negative, but I just try and use my platform to promote like the positive side of it and try and promote sustainable travel and everything like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that something that you ever find yourself tussling with yourself over?
Yeah.
In that you are a social media influencer and you're
Yeah.
posting about these incredibly gorgeous
Yeah.
places that are becoming quite busy. Do you ever find yourself thinking, if I wasn't posting, perhaps they wouldn't become quite so busy?
Yeah, it's hard because I do kind of think Skye was busy before I started posting and it will still be busy after. There's always movies and crazy things going on there. So we kind of touch on it in the series as well, you know. We don't mention specific locations, but we do encourage people to get out and find your own places rather than sticking to the kind of tick list thing that we sometimes see with Skye.
Niamh, thank you so much for coming in and joining us and telling us about how to enjoy the little things in life.
Thank you very much for having me.
Looking forward to seeing it now. To mark the first anniversary of his death, self-portraits by Scottish painter Jack Vetriano are going on display at the National Galleries of Scotland. Two paintings, Portrait of an Artist and Homage to Fontana, are being loaned to the gallery for a 6-year period by Vetriano's estate. Portrait of an Artist will go on display on the anniversary of his death, which is this Sunday. The painting will stay on display until early 2029, when it will then be swapped with Homage to Fontana.
Here Vetriano is presenting himself as the artist. The title is Portrait of the Artist. You can see he's wearing his paint-spattered clothes, taking a break, moment of contemplation. He's staged himself in a sort of dramatic setting of light and dark, which was absolutely a key element of his early work.
Well, it gets to this point in the week and we're all wondering what the weekend's going to look weather-wise. Gillian, what are we getting?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, Amy.
Okay.
Tomorrow's looking good. It's the last day of meteorological winter tomorrow, but today it felt like spring had sprung, didn't it? We had sunshine pretty much the length and breadth of Scotland. Some lovely blue skies over Shetland, captured by one of our weather watchers. And in the borders as well, some areas of cloud, but also some decent bright and sunny spells. And a wee passing shower captured over Stornoway, Rainbow and all. But here too, there were some sunny spells. What about the weekend then? Well, we've got chilly air in place tonight and into tomorrow. And then as we head into Sunday, it becomes more unsettled and we'll see some spells of rain along with freshening winds. As we start the day tomorrow, it's certainly going to be on the chilly side. Widespread frost. There'll be some areas of cloud affecting southern Scotland, along with some patchy rain, some winteriness for the southern uplands. Further north, well, look at those temperatures down around the freezing mark. So a widespread frost, but it will be a bright start with some crisp sunshine. Not quite as chilly for the northern and western Isles, where we'll have a bit of a breeze along with a scattering of showers. Now, as we head through the morning into the afternoon, still some cloudier skies at times for southern Scotland, with 1 or 2 showers, not amounting to much. The showers over the Northern Isles tending to fade, and generally lots of sunshine. Temperatures down on today, 6, 7, 8 Celsius, but with mainly light winds and with a wee bit of warmth in that sun. Shouldn't feel too bad. Now, winds start to pick up along the west coast towards evening, and tomorrow night we have a band of rain and patchy snow pushing northeastwards. Some more rain into the southwest by morning. Temperatures will take an early dip, then they recover, because as we head into Sunday, it's looking less chilly and a bit more unsettled. We have low pressure in charge, this frontal system bringing outbreaks of rain, and you can see from the colours on the chart there, it is milder. So for Sunday, lots of cloud. We'll have spells of rain pushing northeastwards. Looks like around late morning, early afternoon, that rain should ease off and the cloud could thin and break to allow some brighter spells, but then there's more rain into the southwest later on in the day, and it becomes increasingly blustery. In fact, the winds not far off gale force on the west coast by the end of the day. Into Monday, it looks like an improving day. So we start with cloud and patchy rain. That will pull away to the east and skies will brighten once again. Some decent sunny spells developing. Scattered showers following into the west. A few could be on the heavy side, and it's another fairly breezy day. That's the forecast. Amy.
Thanks very much, Gillian, and thanks to you for joining us. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.